This video contains major spoilers for Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 3. If you're interested in this character but haven't made it that far, then this isn't the video you're looking for.
You got in with both eyes open.
My father didn't. He's got a gun to my father's head.
Better Call Saul's a story that's told in a world where actions have consequences, and the systems that govern how those are doled out make no false promises of being just. At the end of episode 603, Nacho Varga is on trial. Judgment will be passed based not on his actions, but because of the cumulative nature of the choices he's made. These weren't about the pursuit of riches or the accumulation of power, but simply an effort to make it out, while at the same time trying to keep his father safe. In the end, Nacho doesn't get out, but he does go out as the man he wanted to be. All men must die, and there's no question of death's inevitability in this case, but there are good deaths and there are bad deaths. In his final act, Ignacio Varga managed to secure himself a good one, although not in the way Juan Bolsa was suggesting. He rose above the choices being offered, stayed true to what he held to be most important, and in conjunction with an inspired performance from Michael Mando, solidified himself as one of the series' most memorable characters. That is no small feat, considering this thing is built on the backs of a slew of fascinating personalities. Most are of the variety that resemble car crashes that you can't look away from. And what I love about Nacho is that he's a character you find yourself starting to root for because of the choices he's making. This sets him apart, and the show managed to use this to do some interesting things, not least of which was to construct a final scene that manages to be intense even though you know the fate of every other character present. In this, his end feels inevitable, but you still find yourself searching for a way things could turn out differently. He can't escape the violent end that all of those present will eventually know, but Nacho Varga was always different. Initially just because he was one of a handful of characters who don't appear in Breaking Bad. But there is much more to it. In the first season, you're introduced to Kim Wexler, Howard Hamlin, Chuck McGill, and a variety of side characters that all inhabit a pre-Heisenberg Albuquerque, about 6 years before Walter White is diagnosed with cancer. The problem with prequels is you know how the story ends for the main characters. This makes for a great situation for the unknowns, and there were big plans early on for Nacho and Jimmy to be frequent antagonists. Then there were some changes made to how he would transform into Saul, and that diminished Nacho's role. That's not to say he didn't do anything important. In his introduction as one of Tuco's more reasonable associates, he played a role in saving Jimmy's life. Only at that point, he seized on the information about the Kettlemans and tried to use that to enrich himself. He sort of faded into the background from there, and you wonder if they named the third episode after him more for the fact that his name fit the convention of ending in an O, rather than how important he was to the story. The creators really liked the actor either way, so it was just a matter of time until they found a way to utilize him. They realized that they could use his uncertain ending to their advantage and decided to make us like him. That way, if they put him in danger, there are stakes in a way that there never can be for characters like Jimmy or Mike. This is particularly effective since he's surrounded by violent people, but also creates a challenge for making the audience really care about him. When Arturo died, it was shocking because of the method, the way that it happened. But I think if you compare it to Nacho's final moments, you'll see how effective this decision to make him different turned out to be. It takes some time to develop though. For a while, he continued to be a slightly more palatable henchman compared to his peers in the Salamanca organization, right up until the moment he seeks Mike's help to make Tuco go away. He's become erratic because of his using, and Nacho worries that he'll come after him if he doesn't make a move first. Mike's code is stricter at this point in the story, and he doesn't want to kill anyone. This makes for an interesting intersection of these two stories. Mike is beginning his descent into this world while Nacho is starting to try to get out, and this adds to the gravity of the situation they find themselves in later. He comes up with an alternate plan that works, but it also creates complications, and that brings Tuco's uncle Hector into the equation. Things don't improve under his new boss, but he keeps his head down until Hector tries to use his father's business as a front for their smuggling operation. His dad, Manuel Varga, is as pure a character as this universe has. He's a normal citizen, straight as can be, who works hard running his own small business. He's also a little proud and very stubborn. And because he doesn't happily go along with the new plan, Don Hector doesn't trust him. This makes Nacho fear for his life, so he takes drastic steps to try to take his boss out. The plan almost works, and it would have worked, but Gus intervenes because he wants to decide how and when Hector will die. This is all part of his quest for revenge for the death of his partner Max, and in the process of saving Hector's life, he discovers what Nacho was trying to do, which is information he can use against him. For his efforts of trying to get out from under the Salamancas, he's rewarded by being forced to be a double agent for Gus. This has him shot a couple of times to make up a story, to cover up what happened to Arturo. Things spiral when Lalo enters the picture to make things difficult for Gus, who then resorts to threatening his father's life. And Nacho realizes the only way he can get out of this situation is if he can get his father to run away with him. Otherwise, he'd never be safe. So by now it's clear that Nacho is no saint. He made a choice to get involved in the drug game. In that, he's handed out beatings and even killed people. But where most people who found themselves stuck in that position would have just leaned in, just went for the money, went for the power, he went in the other direction. When faced with the reality of who the people he worked for were, and of who he would become, he risked his life to become something else. And all of this made him sympathetic, and provided the story with a place where tension can live, because you just don't know what's going to happen to him. Unfortunately, every failed attempt to get out of the game left him in a more compromised position. He tried to set up an escape plan that would include his father, and even tried to get Mike's help in relation to getting away from Gus. The plan fell through when Manuel refused the offer on his shop because he figured out that Nacho was probably behind it and probably using drug money. And in the wake of that, they end up having a conversation where he makes it clear that he won't leave town. I mentioned he was stubborn, and he lays it out there that he won't accept anything short of his son going to the police. Surely part of this is him being naive, not really understanding what his son is up against, but there was another great decision in the way they developed this, in that they made Nacho the kind of character that didn't want to put that burden on his father. He had so much respect that he never gave him an ultimatum. He wanted him to decide for himself, and when that didn't happen, Nacho just tried to figure out a different way to make it work. He won't be able to accomplish that, and this is where his story becomes unflinchingly tragic. He's forced to aid Gus in his failed attempt to take out Lalo. Because he could potentially expose the Chicken Man's involvement, both sides want to kill him, and it becomes clear that he's down to just two choices. He could try to run, knowing full well that Gus has already threatened his father, or he can forfeit his life to mislead the Salamancas. Pay the ultimate price not for the mistakes he's made, but for something that would take suspicion off of a person who's been torturing him. It's a hopeless situation, but because of the way the character's been developed, it makes complete sense that he would do this in exchange for his father's safety. 603 is Nacho's episode. It's his ending, and the name Rockin' Hard Place encapsulates his story. Back against the wall, you see him stripped down to his essence and find out what's there. A life is decided through a series of choices. There's no control over how things play out. But in his time of judgment, Nacho can choose who to be. While many characters would chase one last remote or even irrational grab at survival, Nacho Varga chooses love. For the one pure thing left in his world, a constant in a chaotic, unhinged existence, like a bright blue flower growing in the desert. It's not a perfect decision because that's not how things work, but it is a perfect way to end his story. He's able to keep up his end of the bargain by drawing suspicion away from one tormentor and deliver a crushing blow against the other. There are no guarantees, only promises. What matters in the moment is that Mike is the only person he's grown to trust, and he did manage to end things on his own terms. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Michael Mando's masterful performance again. He brought the character to life and his presence will be missed. The final phone call with his father will no doubt be remembered as one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the series. And the adios papa just sticks with you. And I think that's a good place to leave things. Let me know what you loved about the character Nacho Varga and Michael Mando's performance in the comments. I think the sheer impotence of Hector firing shots into his dead body is a testament to what he accomplished, and I'd love to hear what you think. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.